Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Growing Pains and Gains podcast. We've got an amazing episode ahead. Very special conversation we're going to have. Again, we've got Kristianos with us again.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
And we've also got the lovely Connie with us today.
Hey guys.
And joining us all the way from sunny Manchester, UK, we have Aaron joining us via live link.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah. So, how's everyone? How you doing, Chris?
I'm all right, you know. I know it looks like I'm wearing black again. It's not black is not my favorite color, but
Okay.
yeah, I'm doing all right. You know, just life
Yeah.
is life in work, kids.
To be fair, we're all matching. We're all blacked out.
I was going to say
Aaron,
black
me,
is my favorite.
Connie, we're all blacked out.
Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah.
How are you, Connie?
I am good. I am just running around
Mhm.
as usual. So today I did a university open day.
Yeah, I saw you on
We've
socials,
won,
actually.
yeah. And then I'm currently working production on some of the shows at Tottenham. So I'm doing
Wicked.
Beyonce at the moment. So I've been like
Whew.
early mornings and stuff. But
Yeah.
apart from that, I'm good.
Wow. Well, not apart from that, including that. That's good.
that,
Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah.
Aaron, how are you, my bro?
I'm good, thanks.
We wanted to have you here, but we managed to link you up online. But maybe in the future we can have you live and direct.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. So thanks, guys. I appreciate you all being here. So this episode is going to be about our beautiful children. So each of us have at least one child who has a disability or special educational need. So I rarely hear this being discussed on social media, in the news, unless they're talking about disability allowance or something like that. I rarely see black people talking about it. I rarely see men talking about it, their experience. So this is one of the topics I wanted to address on this podcast. So I know each of you for similar reasons, but I know that you've got your own journey. So we're just going to go around and just explain what condition each child has.
Okay.
Share as little or as much as you want, just so that people know.
Yeah.
So Chris?
So yeah, my son has got autism.
Okay.
So he was a genius when he was a baby. So he used to spot numbers and know how to count.
Okay.
And I thought, yeah, wow, great stuff.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Then,
I love some of that.
and then later on, there was some slight dyspraxia where the balancing and not being able to be aware of his spatial surroundings.
Okay.
And then there was a thing about Makaton, so trying to add ways of speaking to him and for him to communicate with us.
Okay.
We had to do a bit of sign language with the communication at first.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, now he's 9, going 10.
Mm-hmm.
He's developed stemming.
Mm-hmm.
So he stems. So he's like,
Mm-hmm.
He does it in public. I just allow him to be free and to do as he feels, you know,
Yeah.
to express himself. Because the world don't matter to me
Yeah.
when I'm out with him. So it says, "Do you want to stem? Okay, do you want to stem here, or do you want to go in the corner?"
Yeah.
He takes his time and just, I just want to stem, and come back
And he just does it.
Yeah,
That's
he just
sweet.
does it. Yeah, but yeah. So that's me with my
Your
little
son.
boy. Yeah.
Cool. Connie.
So my daughter Alea, she is 14 now. Can't believe 14 years
Time
have gone
flies,
by.
innit?
I know. And they have told me, which is the way I like to say it, that she has something called ACO2 related cerebellar and retinal degeneration.
Okay. Say that one more time.
Yeah.
ACO2, that's the gene,
Okay.
related cerebellar and retinal degeneration,
Okay.
which is a genetic condition. And I don't know if we're going to talk later about kind of how we got to the diagnosis. So I won't go into that. But basically how it affects her is she is globally delayed. So she's cognitively delayed, speech delayed. She also has problems with her sight, so she's actually registered partially sighted.
Okay.
And then her mobility and her coordination is poor. So she had a long time where she would fall over a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what it is with her. But everything else, you know, she operates normally, I guess. Normally is a really bad word to use, but you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Typically. Yeah.
Okay. Aaron?
Yeah. So I've my son Ashton. He's now 5. He was born at 22 weeks.
Wow.
Born with chronic lung disease. He basically had no lungs.
Wow.
They weren't developed, so they didn't think he would. Well, they were pretty adamant he would never survive, would never make it, but he's proved everyone wrong.
Yeah.
He had a tracheostomy and he was on a ventilator for a long time, so he needed oxygen as well, which kind of prevented him being able to speak. So we thought that was the main cause of his lack of speech development. But they've also diagnosed him with autism now.
Okay.
So he does stem a lot. We kind of knew that there was some elements of that. He was showing all the signs of it before they diagnosed him. So that was something we're prepared for.
Yeah.
He's still peg fed. He's still fed by his stomach by a pump. He suffered a lot of struggles with walking and muscle development. He didn't start walking till he was 3.
Okay.
And it's he's progressing really well. He's behind. That he's in school. They're actually going to keep him behind in reception for another year.
Okay.
Because we can't get him into a specialist school because there's no places available. So yeah, there's a lot of struggles and ups and downs, but he's happy.
Yeah.
And like for him, he just bounces around with a happy smile. He does STEM a lot. He just laughs and he's just happy. So at the moment we can deal with that side because he's in no pain. He's happy. But it's going to be a long road for him.
Yeah.
A very long road.
Thanks, guys. So, for me, so my daughter Taya, she is 8. She's gonna be 9 next month. Can't believe it. She was born full term, and she came home. Everything seemed normal, typical. Then she went yellow. She had jaundice, so we brought her back in, and then all kind of things started happening. So her temperature was fluctuating. She couldn't keep her temperature stable. They wrapped her up in loads of blankets and put her under the heater to keep her temperature up. And then her O2 saturation kept going up and down like very fast. So 1 second it was 99, then it would drop to 62, then it would go back up to 84, then down to 71. They just
That's
couldn't.
really mad.
Yeah, it was crazy. So she had jaundice. She couldn't keep her temperature. O2 saturations kept going up and down like all the time. And then when they did physical examinations, they said, "Oh, she's a bit floppy." And then they were like, "Okay, she's a bit hypertonic, so low muscle tone. So it's a bit floppy. She still had power. She can use her limbs, but when she was relaxed, she was just too floppy, too loose, too too floppy." So they did all kinds of tests and so on, but we'll get into that later. So basically, what they say she has, which it's not a condition, it's global developmental delay. So she's non-verbal still. She started walking at 4. And she vocalizes, she makes sounds and buh, buh, buh. She babbles a little bit. She shrieks at her little sister if she gets on her nerves. Like she shows that kind of annoyance at her. She's cheeky as well. She's a bit wobbly on her feet, so she wears special shoes and has special insoles. She does fall a lot as well, like you said your daughter does or did. So yeah. So again, like Aaron said, it's a long road, and with no condition official, there's no way of knowing, what life is going to look like for her. There's no community of people to say, okay, everyone with this condition, oh, this is what we did, try that, this might work for you, or so we're just having to go along at her pace, really.
Sorry, just as you said
Yeah.
that just on that point of having no condition. So
Yeah.
with my daughter, we had no diagnosis for years.
Oh, wow.
Either.
Yeah.
And they've got that place SWAN, so it's syndromes without a name.
Okay.
Is what it's called. So that's like an organisation for people without diagnosis.
Yeah.
But even when you get the diagnosis, it's still like I gave you the name.
Yeah.
So her condition was discovered in 2012.
Okay.
They hadn't even discovered it then.
Wow.
So even though there's a diagnosis, it means nothing.
Yeah.
There's no treatment. There's they don't know what to do. They don't.
Yeah.
So it is like I was in that same place, and you think, oh, I'm going to get a diagnosis, and then it's all going to open up the world and it's
when
not
it comes,
necessarily that. Yeah,
it's funny. Wow. We always think what we don't have, when we get it, then we'll
then we'll know.
Yeah, we get 1 million, and then we're like, I'll be happy, and then you've got another level. But yeah, so I wanted to explore, especially with the men, because apparently we don't talk. What were your emotions? What were you feeling? Christian and Aaron first. I still want to hear from Connie. And how did you initially handle the news of your child's diagnosis, or just them not being typical?
Okay, for me, when my son's mom was trying to take him to the speech and language therapist, I didn't accept it. Yeah, I didn't accept it.
Yeah.
And again, I'm also typically old school.
Yeah.
So anything that you tell me that is a condition, I'm saying no, it's a behavioral attitude.
Yeah.
And it can be healed by creating a way of expression.
Yeah.
So the SALT team will say, you should use Makaton and allow him to read your lips when you're speaking.
Yeah.
Aiden, can you get me the cup?
Yeah.
He goes and gets me the cup.
Yeah.
Without reading my lips, without having to look at my sign language. So I was just like, what you do? Yeah, or pecs. So what you telling me? I know my child better than you do.
Yeah.
But again, that was part of my ignorance, not ignorance as in stubbornness, my ignorance as in knowledge, because I had lack of knowledge on how autism operates and how you could create certain ways of modes of communication. So I was stuck in thinking, again, back to the typical way that a child is supposed to develop. So I don't think it took me a good while to actually accept.
So you're in denial for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aaron?
Mine was a very long journey. It was a long journey in a strange period because he was born the month after we went into lockdown. So the world had stopped. So I didn't have no other focus apart from focusing on him. And he lived in the hospital for 13 months. Wow. So he was sedated pretty much. He was like 50% sedated through most of that time because he was on a ventilator. So it took a long time before we even, had the opportunity to know what what conditions or anything he might have, because he was just pretty much asleep, and we were just waiting for him to break through the time period of surviving, lungs developing and stuff like that. So it wasn't really until, when he left hospital, he was already one. So,
wow.
But he was like a newborn, it was his development. He was like a still newborn baby. So everything took a while to learn. And I was just kind of, they did say all sorts of things could happen. And I was kind of just open to whatever, whatever I'm going to deal with it, say hiding your emotions. That's where me and his mum, she fought in many ways. It wasn't affecting me, but it was. It's just that
Mm.
I wouldn't say I bottled up my emotions. It just kind of I took them away for now. I'm cool. Let me just stay strong for him,
Yeah.
and I kind of try to not let it bother me. And if he's going to keep fighting, I'll keep fighting.
Yeah.
And as it got along the time, it was just you're learning all these odd things that are you're picking up all of these things, right? He's not doing this, so we can't do that. Right? I'm going to keep teaching him. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going
Yeah.
to keep pressing and keep pushing. And that whole thing of you all assault teams and all of these teams saying he's not about to do this, he can't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't so much in denial, but I wasn't gonna give up to say that he would never be able to do it. I mean, they even said at one point they think he's got hearing issues. And as he got older, I was like, he doesn't have a hearing issues. I'm a sound engineer. I know someone. You can't tell me I'm a sound engineer. This boy can hear.
Yeah.
And I learned that he has control of, full control of selective hearing. Like he chooses what he
Yeah.
responds to. Like
Yeah.
you can look him point blank in the face and he just look past you, like he hears you because it does certain things that would trigger his reaction.
Mm.
Um, and that's part of, I started reading up on autism and learning about different aspects of it. And, every child is different, but I feel like I know my son inside out. I know what he will react to. I know how he will respond. I know how to get his attention. And I think that's the main thing is that we've got our own communication. Even my daughter who's 6, she's a year older. She has her own communication. She's having full conversations with him. He's not even responding,
Yeah.
but
Mm.
their actions together is just amazing because she's talking to him. He's mumbling, he's making blabbering sounds and all sorts and giving hand gestures and
Mm.
they're just having their own communication. So it's great. I guess we've had time to learn him at an early stage to know what he wants, what he needs, and obviously some things we can't work out. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Wicked, man. Yeah. It's emotional for me. Emotional for me. I feel like it's a little bit of therapy for me anyway. I can relate to something that everyone said. I went through denial as well.
Mm. Mm.
Um, and also, Aaron said, your child spent 13 months.
In hospital.
I thought it was bad because my daughter spent 13 weeks.
Wow.
And I found that traumatic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to hear Aaron say 13 months, I was thinking like, whoa,
And having the first birthday in hospital.
that's crazy.
yeah.
In
But
lockdown.
That's
it
crazy.
was in lockdown, and I think if I'm deadly honest, I mean it's I lost family members in COVID,
Yeah.
so it was the worst time ever. But for under his circumstances, it was probably the best thing that could ever happen because we was able to be there every day.
Yeah.
Like
Mm.
mum would do the morning shifts, I would do the night shifts.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'd always try and catch the doctors, the consultants, and the handovers. This the NHS system is a bit deep, man. It's like a nurse has got to come in, and within half an hour, you got to learn everything about 3 babies
Mm,
on what's gone on, what they need, what's changed, this and that. How'd you do that?
yeah.
It
Mm.
doesn't work, and the shifts change, the doctors change. That's where my emotions were at its
Mm,
peak because I'm emotionally protective. Like I'm reading the notes and making sure the notes and
yeah.
what you're going to give him. You're not giving him that meds.
Yeah.
Read the notes. It was. I think that was the biggest emotional battle I had was the
Mm.
protection.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
hear that as well.
Because you had to go for the immunization and everything as well, Aaron?
Yo, yeah. Well, to be honest, I didn't have that, but it was quite. I would say it was easier than it seemed managing with COVID and within the hospital. Than I thought it would have been.
Mm.
Um, but there was a lot of times we were isolated from him or he was isolated from us. So,
Yeah.
if one person is diagnosed with COVID or something, it's on lockdown. So just sometimes you're just looking through a window, you couldn't even
Can't even
do
touch.
anything.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
how did that affect like bonding, particularly like with your partner? Because we know like when we hear about premature children in general, that sometimes because you might not get that
Skin to
skin to
skin.
skin, or you just not having them in there, they're in a little plastic
Incubator.
incubator. So how did that work for you, do you think, in terms of bonding with him?
Um, it was I guess it was quite difficult really because through the first good I could say the first 4 months you couldn't really pick him up. He was that fragile, the nappy was the size of his whole chest, like so you couldn't really do anything. So it was quite difficult that you couldn't even just give him a cuddle.
Yeah.
Um, just hold him in any sort of way. I mean, when we first did get to hold him, it didn't even feel like he was holding a child. He was that small.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do when having other kids and you know what it's like. It was probably it was different. I guess sometimes when I think about how did it feel at that time, I can't actually remember, and I think that's the part of me that just kind of went numb and blocked everything out.
Have you suppressed all of that though?
Because I see him smiling, looking at me, nothing really comes out, bad. I know his mum, she has a whole complete different mindset about the whole thing, and the way he emotionally affected her completely different to me. Where it seemed to her that I didn't get.
Yeah.
It seemed to her sometimes that I didn't love my son.
Yeah.
It's because the way we project our emotions is completely different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we might do it more so behind closed doors, or we put up this, this. We're men out. We were like, I'm gonna be strong.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna hold it in. I'm gonna wipe my face, and you just gunning for your son. Come on, boy, come on, let's
Yeah.
go. So you just deal with things differently. I wouldn't say it means that you have a different emotional connection. It's just that it is different the way that you are, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say it's not something we can prepare for because no one
No,
really prepare unless you've had a child with disability before.
that's
It's
right.
different. But if this is your first time, you don't you having a marriage or a relationship is difficult anyway. And then having this experience where you haven't got any answers, you're watching your child in an incubator, they're doing all kinds of tests and pricking and prodding them. They're doing lumbar punches, they're doing blood, and you just see the child just lying there helpless, and you don't know how to handle that.
Yeah.
But then also likewise, neither does the partner. So you might be getting, attacked or lashed out, and you're thinking like,
There's so many stats on relationship breakdown
yeah,
when you have children with, and I know both
yeah,
you and I are both divorced, and it's, I don't know what your
Christian is
situation
divorced as
is.
well, yeah,
Yeah, so I think there is nothing that has more, in my opinion,
yeah.
can cause more stress on a relationship.
Saying
And
that,
we say it with even children that have passed as well.
okay,
So when people lose a child,
yeah,
but I think it's that same, because it's all very much that the vision that you had for your family is now gone.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I was just going to say, Christian shared on previous episodes that they've lost a son,
Yeah.
and they've had a son with disability or special educational needs. So you've experienced both.
Yeah.
How would you say the difference is? They're both different things, but
Yeah.
you also with a child with the SEN, you're gonna have mourned your dream of what you thought your son was gonna be.
But I think because again, it's what we explained before was absolutely correct. You don't know how. You can never prepare yourself, and especially if you've had children before
Yeah.
who do not have any
Needs.
Yeah, they're
disabilities or any
able-bodied.
needs. So then your expectation would be,
Same
okay,
again.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah,
5. You get on with it. But then, so I was saying, my late son was before my son who's got
Okay.
difficulties, and so what the conversation always used to be, would you have wanted to have? Would it be okay to have a child who's completely disabled and, uh, in better words, worse words, a vegetable, or a child pass away? For me, I'll rather have a child who's living and is a vegetable, because I could still care for the child
yeah,
tomorrow. Because if you're going through bereavement, you can't care for them.
yeah,
You technically just have to bury them and move on with life, which you cannot see. Oh, well, this is how he would have looked at when he was 5.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
this is how he looked at when he was 10. So if we say which one's worse,
yeah,
it's just a double whammy. It's completely separate. And at least with the one that's living,
yeah,
I can move on with them.
yeah,
So the idea of, okay, you're not going to be a footballer or you're not going to be a scientist, but you're still going to be next to me.
yeah, and you're going to be something.
And you're going to be
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
And whatever it is, I will push you to be the best
The
you
best
can
something.
be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What?
So,
Okay, so maybe that was a clumsy question. Then maybe a better question would have been, which situation stretched your relationship most? Then
I would have to say the bereavement.
okay.
Yeah, because again, I think when Erin was speaking, I was thinking about, what happens with us. When I say us, normal, I don't know everyone's backgrounds per se. I know bits of everyone's backgrounds, but your background was
Yeah.
also in medical. And when I'm hearing terminologies
Yeah.
and I don't understand, and that's what I feel it for what Erin's saying, 13 months. Like,
It's a long
you're
time.
hearing medical conditions, you're hearing this being brought up, that being
Terms.
brought up, and the type of medication you don't know, and always putting on the research. Because for me, it was always the immunization research. You're not telling me that you're going to inject my child with ABCD and I don't know what it is and the effects of it. Take it back.
Yeah.
We go back to old school, no immunization. How about that? And you can't force me to go through that. So if I look at those kind of parts of challenges, and again the communication, not knowing the language, the medical language, and what's taking place, that becomes a difficult process to go through. So I'm intrigued to know how your process is. When was your daughter diagnosed?
Yeah,
You
so
said 2012.
so the backstory. So she was born in 2011.
Okay.
Her birth, I'd planned a home birth. I'm very much like a natural, like when it comes to that kind of thing. So my daughter that you've met,
Yeah.
she was my first natural birth. Had her in the water.
Oh, nice.
Came
Simple.
absolutely. So I
Yeah.
said, all right, next time, bet
Same
we're
again.
gonna do home birth this time, not just
Yeah.
And so obviously you can't predict when you're gonna go into labour.
No.
And the midwife that I had was not around.
Okay.
They sent some woman who was retired and she just was doing bank. You know,
Okay.
like they
Oh.
have the bank
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And I remember she came in and I was just minding my own business because I hypnobirthed as well, which is the way that I don't have to have
Pain relief.
pain relief. So she's there saying, oh, I need to examine you and all this stuff. And I'm like, nah, lady, I know this. This is my fourth child.
Yeah.
I know this baby's coming soon. I can feel that it's happening. She goes, no, when I checked you before, you was only this dilated and you have to go to the toilet. They had like a checklist of things that you have to do to go up to the toilet. And I'm like, I don't want to go to the toilet. She says, yes, but I need you to go to the toilet before blah, blah, blah. Listen to her. My now ex-husband was downstairs. I think he might have been filling up the pool. He was doing something. I've gone upstairs now, sat on the toilet. As soon as I sat on the toilet, I've just felt a layer just go.
Water.
So I've screamed now.
Yeah.
So all of the hypnobirthing has gone out of the window because I'm now panicking because my child is about to be born in the toilet.
Right.
I've screamed. Everyone's run upstairs. I've managed to crawl out. Her head is out. I've managed to
Oh wow.
crawl off of the toilet
Yeah.
onto all fours
Yeah,
in
yeah.
my landing, and that is where I delivered her. But she came so fast
Yeah. Just
that
slipped
when
out.
she came, she was a little bit blue.
Okay.
And she didn't have to get oxygen or anything in the end, but she was a bit blue in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then, as you say, did the AGPAR scoring, all that stuff they do in the beginning. She was fine. The only thing that I noticed in the early stages for me was that she was a bit less settled. So normally with a breastfed child, they're fine once they, if anything happens, but it's like she was having trouble with that kind of thing. Everything was all cool till she was about 3 months. And then I was like, she's not sitting up very well. Like something's not right.
Yeah.
And took her to the GP. He also was like, yeah, she's a bit floppy. She's not looking like she's sitting up. I'm going to refer you to a pediatrician.
Okay.
That was taking ages. You know what that's like. But in the meantime, one day, she all of a sudden started to get tremors. So her whole body and her mouth was going, it was like her muscles all over her body was spasming. So took her into A&E. That then fast-tracked her into Great Ormond Street, and then came the tests.
Okay.
So this is when she was around 1, when it started.
Okay.
Lumbar punctures. She was under genetics. She was under neurology. She was under metabolic. She was under all of these teams.
Yeah.
Nobody knew what was going on. And so she just went into the system, as your daughter is, as a child with global delay.
Yeah.
And then later on, they did a study. It was a genetic study. I don't remember what it's called. It's called the D&D study.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was the one that came after.
Okay.
And they basically check every gene. And her one came back that it was this ACO2 cerebella. But when most of the children that have that diagnosis die in infancy, and most of them have symptoms that are a lot more severe than Alea's. And they basically said, they went through all this stuff accusing me and my husband of being related, like of this stuff, and they basically said that I and he gave her a 40 gene each of that ACO2 gene. Wow. And that is what's happened. So I'm like, we've had 2 children before that. There was no so I still have never been sure. But I think when we were talking about the emotions that was coming, obviously I'm a problem solver.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit like, the both of you with the denial, but it's not necessarily a denial that this is not happening. It's okay, but we're going to fix it.
See,
Do you know what I mean? So, and I think that's been my thing ever since, up until this day. She's 14 now, as I say. And I think, her being able to speak, I've traveled with that child up and down this country. I have spoken to doctors in every country. Somebody came from Israel who had experience in that condition. I met up with him in London. I'm that person.
Yeah, proactive.
And so I do think that as far as she is now is a lot to do with how, and my ex-husband, he was a home husband. I don't know what you want to call it.
Stay-at-home dad.
And in that one-to-one stuff, he did a lot of that. I can never take that away from him in terms of that. And I also think having older children was the game changer, because her being able to understanding, her humor, all of those things, it's literally majority of physical thing. Like now, every day she comes home, Mum, I want to get married, and she's serious. She wants to get married. She's got a boyfriend at school. She's saying all of these things. I'm like, oh my God. But I think that was how she got diagnosed anyway. That was how that all.
So, for those who don't know, I put myself in that same position. What is it? And how is it manifested? Is it something that we could physically see, or is it something that is inside and you cannot see?
Yeah, no, you can definitely physically see it. So the first thing that happened was her eyes turned.
Okay.
So whereas she used to look, so she started to get cross-eyed. Yeah. Then she does a thing like she would do a thing with her neck. So she used to do that stimming thing. She would do things with her hand. You lot will kill me. I used to be like, cut that out. I had to tell her, stop it. I said, you're not going to do that around here. When you're in school, do what you want to do, because she goes to special school.
Yeah.
So you're not going to do that in here. And it stopped.
Okay. Yeah.
So, you know, so there may be parts of autism, which I think a lot of the kids that it is, because it's the way that they process things, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think so. It's obviously her eyesight. You can see that she can't see. She's got her iPad. She will hold it here,
Close to her eyes.
really close. So she literally can't see much. Glasses don't help. It's not something that can be corrected in that way. And then obviously her walking, she doesn't walk very well. I think because of that, she's quite weighty as well. Because obviously and that's another thing. The school will be like, she needs a wheelchair, bringing her wheelchair. I said, no, she will walk.
Yeah, she needs to.
Yeah. Whatever walking capacity she has,
She will do that.
she's going to do that. And so, so it manifests a lot of things. And I think just her being able to interact, because I think inside she wants to be able to interact and play with people, and I think that is quite difficult. And even in a special school, because a lot of the children in the school are more severe than her, she's not I guess enough to go with a child that is a typical child, but she's also too much for the ones that are more severely disabled. So it's that kind of, you know,
We thought just come up with. I've resonated with that as well. My daughter goes to a special school as well, fantastic school, and she got in there quite early. She went from nursery reception all the way up. And they haven't kept her back, even though she's not necessarily meeting the criteria for year 1 or year 2.
Yeah.
Which I was like, does it make sense moving her up to year 3 and then to year 4? It doesn't. But anyway, but it's a great school. She has swimming there, speech and language, physio, all kinds of stuff there. So it's great. I did have some issues originally. I think one was whether or not to send her on the school bus or not. I struggled with that.
I did as well.
Because I didn't want...
It's because when we were kids, when you see the special bus, it's like,
And I just felt like I was abandoning her. Like, send her on that bus. No, I will take her every day. You know what I mean? Or we will take her every day. If I have to lose out on work, that's fine. I'll take her. I just didn't want to send... But as a part of denial as well, by sending her on the bus, it's like saying that she is one of them. And I just still... At home, she's not a disabled child. She's just Taya.
A child.
My child. To the world, they will see differences. You see other children who are able-bodied. She's 8. She might see 6-year-olds, and they're looking up at her like, "Oh, why is she different?" kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you're looking as a parent. You notice all the looks and stuff.
Protect.
Yeah. Even when they're going in the morning, I notice it, because the kids are going to school. Walking towards the bus, and it's like you're very aware that
of the difference.
She's being stared at.
Yeah. So, but she goes on the school bus now. I think this year and last year we allowed her to go on the school bus. But the first 3 years, neither of us were comfortable with that idea. And then also, I find it difficult going to the school for things like school plays and stuff. Because there are lots of children who are much worse.
Yeah.
And it hits you like it's very... I don't know if it's sad or if it's... I don't know how to explain it.
I get what you
But when
mean.
you see it, you're like, oh, man. You're grateful that your child has more, ability. But then there's a part of me that also feels like, in a Jamaican term, say it's like a bit of a puppy show. Like, they can't do the play.
Anything,
They can't say the lines. They can't sing the songs. It's almost like they're a spectacle.
You're humouring.
And it pees me off. So I go, but a couple of times I'll be like, I can't. Because it's like, I know their heart's in the right place and they're just doing a nativity play or whatever, but I just feel like it's making a little bit of a spectacle of them. I don't like it. So I just, but and one time at the school, I did say to one of the teachers, they were like, we're having a tea meeting for the mothers and stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I went over to one of the deputy heads and said, "Miss, have you got anything for the dads? Have you got any like provisions for the dads, or can the dads get together at all?" And she goes, "We don't actually. I'll feed it back." That was like 2 years ago. I haven't heard nothing all now. I just thought like I come here all the time and there's quite a few dads that come. So, still.
Mm.
There's quite a few dads around, and I'm like, why don't no one want to,
Mm.
see what the dads are feeling, or do we need any support? Do we need any
Yeah.
upskilling?
Yeah.
Anything? But there's nothing for dads really that I'm aware of. I don't know if Aaron, if you've had any support for dads or Chris.
Uh, no.
No.
Um, maybe I have not paid attention to any of it. I don't know. But there's nothing boldly out there.
Mm.
There's nothing. There's nothing like that.
I suppose that
Yes, sir.
also comes with just the gender thing, because we just want to protect, look
Mm.
after, solve, and we see a problem and we have to solve it.
Yeah.
And it's an innate thing. It's not something that we could try to turn off.
Mm.
It's just I see this as a problem. My child can't walk, so I'm going to try to get my child to walk.
Yeah.
Child can't speak, so I'm going to try to get my child to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
yeah. Go on.
we needed when he was starting the nursery. I was like, they said they're not allowed to pick them up. They're not
Yeah.
allowed to pick the kids up.
What do you mean?
So
Because of
Lift
health
them,
and
they're
safety,
not.
they're not
Yeah,
allowed to lift.
yeah.
Harry, they're not allowed to pick them up. So I'm like, you're just gonna let him roll around on the floor because he had this thing of kind of crawling and rolling because he wasn't really great at crawling.
Mm.
So I thought, nah, man, I can't let him go to school like that. And it was one of those militant missions of you going to walk before you go to that school.
Yeah.
And he did. Like I'm talking 2 weeks before, like he was walking, like, wobbly, but
Mm.
yeah, I just couldn't let him go there and just be on the floor and
Yeah.
all the other kids are running past him, stepping on his toes, stepping
Yeah.
on his hands, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And you know that he's gonna have all this crap on his hands, he's gonna touch his face, he's not gonna wipe his hands.
Nah.
All this stuff you
Yeah.
start thinking about, so you just go into that
So that
ultimate
segues.
protection and
Yeah, it does.
listen, you gotta walk.
And he did. Good boy. So that segues to another question. So, what anxieties or fears did you guys experience as a part of just your child's journey in general? Like, what things do you think of, or what makes you anxious when you think about your child? And
Can I just go back to the men thing
go on.
just for 2
Yeah,
seconds?
go.
So part of what I do is I work in HR, diversity, inclusion. That's yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. So I wrote an article a couple of years ago, and it was exactly about male carers, and it was for Carers Week. So people like will come and ask me to write stuff or to do thought pieces or whatever. And I basically spoke about the fact that in statistics, as a HR person, when we get everybody to talk about whether they're a carer,
Yeah.
the men never, they don't acknowledge themselves
As a
as
carer.
being
Yeah.
carers. And it's because the majority of the time, the woman is the one that stays with, especially if you've got a disabled child,
Nurturing.
she's normally that does that part of it.
Yeah.
The men go to work.
Mhm.
And in the workplace, you don't want your colleagues, particularly in a corporate environment,
Mm.
to be sitting there thinking, oh, he's a. But if you think about how many ADHD or autistic children, just with that diagnosis
Yeah, yeah,
alone,
yeah.
there are, the, the likelihood is half of the men in any office are carers,
Yeah.
but they just don't think of themselves as that. And they kind of, keep back from that kind of maybe neediness it's seen as, or I don't know what your opinions are, but when you're saying that there's nothing for men,
Yeah.
I think it's because men in the main don't seem like they need anything because they're sort of on the side. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
I think there's an obvious answer, which is like men, we just get on with it and
Yeah.
we just firm it and go and whatever. But I feel like society, the way it's set up, it's to support women first first and foremost. So, for example, child benefit will go to one parent, even if you're together, married, and it's usually
The
the
woman.
woman. Carers allowance, disability allowance is going to go to one parent, and it's usually that account is going to be the woman's. When I was with my ex-wife, she was the carer. So whatever I did when I got home, that was just me being a dad.
That title
She's a
wasn't given
mum
to you.
and carer. I'm just doing dad duty. So I feel like the way things are set up, it's always that way. The woman is the thing, or the woman gets the support,
Mm.
and then the man he's just doing his part.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I don't know what you guys think.
What did you say, Aaron?
Well, it was kind of, I don't know. It was like an automatic thing where, was it even a discussion? It was like, she's gonna care. I guess because we had our other daughter as well. She was only a year older than Ashton because he was born so early. They were that close. They're only a year and 1 month apart.
Oh.
So she was home anyway, and then it was lockdown, and so it just meant that, well, I'm gonna go and work, and you be the carer, and it just kind of automatically happened that way. I guess my thing was, let me do what I know I'm better at. I'll go and work. I'll look after the household, and support everybody that way.
Yeah.
I'll be the last one to go bed.
Yeah.
It's just little things like, I guess I don't know. I guess it's just, is it just set that way? Is it
I don't see
I
myself.
don't know. Is it an expectation? I don't I don't know.
Whatever your child needs,
Yeah.
I'll try and provide that or be that. Whatever
Yeah.
support they need, I try and give that. I don't say that I'm a carer because of that.
So if you had to tick a box,
Yeah.
if you had a questionnaire and they
Yeah.
said, "Do you have caring responsibilities?" What would you say?
Dad.
Dad.
If there's a
Dad,
parent,
carer, provider, protector.
yeah, just dad.
Dad.
Yeah, I wouldn't say
Yeah.
I wouldn't classify myself as a carer.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
also on the flip side, if they said, Ryan, we've got this support for your family, here it is, I would always defer it to her anyway. It's like saying you're both hungry. Here's a meal. What are you gonna do? You're gonna hand it over to your wife or children.
But
Do you
the
know what I mean?
problem is nobody knows unless you say.
Very
So
true.
they won't think that they need to provide anything if that audience, if that demographic is
Yeah,
not
It's
there.
not there.
So
Identifying
every
themselves.
time that you guys don't say you're a carer, then you
Yeah.
don't exist.
Yeah, true.
Very true.
We don't exist.
Yeah,
On
it's true.
paper, we don't exist.
Yeah.
That's true. And how do we ask for help? And and does it feel safe to do that? Do you know what I mean? Do you feel safe saying, I need help with this? Like it took me, see when I said I went to the teacher and said, is there anything for dads? It took me a bit of, I had to work myself up a little bit to say, let me go and say something.
But then again, it's, who do you ask? Who is it that you're asking for help? Because, my first port of call, if I'm going to ask someone for help,
Yeah.
if it wasn't my obviously my ex-wife now,
Mhm.
then I'd be calling my mum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to ring no hotline. I'd be like, yo, mum, or I'm going to call my grandmother. So my experience was, I mean, my eldest daughter is 19 this month, and I took full custody of her when she was 11 months. So I raised my daughter on my own for, I didn't get married again until I think she was 6. So I was single for all that time, bringing up my daughter. But my support network was my mum and my grandmother, and I had friends and stuff and like that. So I think I would, again, if it was someone that said, "Do you need help?" I'd be picking up the phone to call one of those first, and probably still now.
Yeah.
But I think you are right. That we have to take some responsibilities. And for those, I remember I was saying, for me, there's ignorance or not knowing what the disability was. But now I have the knowledge. Then it's for me to go and do something about it and encourage and empower the next person and set up the cells so that we could grow.
Yeah.
But what, because like now, I'll say this is part of doing something about it.
Yeah. As I was going to say, majority of disabled charities or networks or support have been set up by parents.
Yeah.
So, we know I've taken my local authority to tribunal twice because of not doing what my daughter needed.
Yeah.
Not everybody has got that wherewithal to do that. And so a lot of the support networks were set up by mums. They were set up by people. So this is you guys' time to set up one for...
I would say that there is a gender roles part of that as well. People will keep getting at me with that. There's the part where you had the child in your stomach, you bonded with them, and now you gave birth to them. I'll say that I think there's a small minority of men who actually consider things like that. And I'm not going to take over and be the carer or be the primary carer when you've gone through all of that.
Oh yeah, no.
So then again, like Erin said as well, let me do the thing that I know best to do, which is to earn money and leave you to do what you have been doing before. And I haven't had an inkling on what the pain that you've gone through, the anxiety that you've gone through, so and everything that you're doing. I'll just tend to say, okay, I'll leave you to do that, so I could do this bit. By doing that, then I've separated myself. And same thing that Ryan just said, that if you get a plate of food, it's not going to go to my on my table first. I'll give it to you and say, you eat. Get the children to eat, because that's the first thing that we do.
Your
And
mentality,
those are gentlemen who know how to be the leader, who know how to be the provider and the protector. And so it's almost as if that title of carer, I would say you deserve to have that title because we hold that high. So we wouldn't see ourselves as the carer because we think, no, you've done all of this already. So where do I come in to even talk about was Braxton Hicks?
Oh yeah.
Where am I to even talk about the belly stretching apart from when the fufu go inside? But those are the things that with certain people we leave it to you, and because we've gone to work, so you could set up the meeting with the fellow mothers, because your role is to hold the child, and as you're holding the child you could do the charity, whereas we have no clue, and then we start asking our mums and our sisters. Yeah.
Question, guys. So we've all got other children as well. We've got a lot of similarities. We're all divorced, all got other children. So question, have you felt like your child with special needs has negatively impacted the life of your other children? And if so, do you hold any guilt for that?
You guys go first.
I think actually we should let the lady go first.
A bit more time.
Yeah. I've actually thought about this morning because I thought it was something that would come up. So as I said, I've got 4 in total.
Yeah.
My eldest is going to be 27 this year.
Wow.
So yeah, I was a young mum. And yes, definitely 100%. I wouldn't be able to, especially since I got divorced in around 2016, I wouldn't be able to work. I wouldn't be able to do the thing. Social services basically came and told me I must give up work and stay at home.
Wow.
When I separated.
Great help.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
And so for me to be able to give all my children more than what is the standard, I had to find a way to be out there. So my eldest daughter, who doesn't live with me now, she helped a lot with her sisters. And I think that they do all have a really good bond with her. So I think it's yin and yang.
Yeah.
I think it has affected them negatively because they've got a lot more responsibility than they would have if they didn't have a sibling with special needs. But equally, I think that their empathy for people, anybody that's met my children, they're all very, polite, very loving, very, and so I think there's that. In terms of guilt, yes, 100%.
Okay.
But what I realized, and I try to be logical about things, is that having guilt about something that you can't control or something that has happened in the past, which is what it is. Yes, they might not have got all to do all of the things that they wanted to do because they were doing stuff with their sister, but I can't do anything about that now. So holding on to a guilt feeling, it just will lead to a life of regret. And one of the things that I do think that you need to show your children is lightness, joy, happiness, that you as an adult, let them aspire to that as well. So yes, this is a situation. It's not the greatest situation. We would love for Alea to be a typical child. And, you know, by now, if she's 14, I would have been finished with mothering. I'm done. And that's obviously not something that's going to happen. And so, yes, there is guilt, but I think we have to think practically about it because we need to survive in the situation that we're in. So,
Yeah, for me, I'll say that similarly, I think it's helped them to be a bit more patient with others, to be a bit more understanding. Whereas if they didn't have a sibling who needed patience, then they would just take that for granted. And they might not have worked those muscles in the behaviors, in the characteristics.
Good point.
To say, let me hear what that person had to say, or let me put myself in that position of that person. So that's a great thing. Because I think, going through that, they've learned also not to be embarrassed about it. So I don't care what you think. I'm still gonna allow my sibling to express himself how they feel best to express themselves. So that creates a different level of love as well. Guilt. I say my guilt is not the diagnosis. My guilt is what happened before. So going through the bereavement, and it became very toxic with my ex-wife. So I feel that in those parts where you just walk out and drive your car, go for a drive, and cool yourself down, whereas you didn't do that, but you stayed in the house and gave back the back chat, and you knew that it was getting toxic for her, and you knew that she was getting irate, and the oxygens, and how you how the woman is made up to pass on the correct bloods and everything else. I think I should have walked away with quite a lot of that, and I was part of that. I created a child who could have been different.
So you feel like because of the environment that your relationship created, that could have negatively affected
Absolutely.
how your child
with the
came out.
pregnancy.
It's a possibility.
Yeah,
but
it's never proven.
But I would say don't take that on as
no.
That is why he's the way
No,
he
no,
is.
no, absolutely
but
not.
It's a fair thought to have,
and it's a journey.
Yeah.
That I'm going in. I'm still part of that journey, and it's the 2 in 1 because the bereavement. The
How old was your?
he was 21 days before passing, and he was born on the 25th of September. And so, similar to Erin, when he passed, she fell pregnant very quickly, and that due date was the 23rd of September.
Wow.
So knowing children could kind of
come early, come late.
Early, come late. We had her induced, so he was born on the 19th. So it was the healing process of coming away from the bereavement wasn't there, and so then you carry on with madness and toxicity. Then it could have passed on. Again, part of research is could have been, maybe not, but because as human beings we always try to find a reason.
Yeah. And sometimes we blame ourselves or blame people. Erin, what about you? Experiencing the guilt regarding your other children and how it's affected them?
I guess it was. So my ex-wife, she, even till this day, I know she lives in guilt of blaming herself for not being able to carry him for longer. There was a bit of issues that we had before, again, of, it was we were in lockdown, weren't we? So we would that I would try and like let's go for family walks. Let's just go get some air, And there's a whole thing where when she gets upset, she'll blame me because I made her go for a walk, and the walk was a little bit long, and then it was a knock-on effect, and she felt pain, and then we argued, and then next minute he's born. Like it's
Yeah.
that triggered it. So then it's the guilt is that she holds is that if she could have held him for at least 1 or 2 more weeks, then maybe you wouldn't have all these issues. Who knows?
Yeah. Again, we never know.
The other guilt that she holds is obviously down due to COVID, because she couldn't get to her appointments to check, because her the whole placenta was basically the wall was just peeling away. So the checks she weren't able to get checked by them, just to see. And I guess it's one of those things where I'm pretty good I have a good coping mechanism. Like, I guess in so many ways it can make people think that I don't care, but there's so many scenarios you can come and put up with. You can just drive yourself crazy. So sometimes I just try to deal with it like as it was. But for the kids, for the older kids, I guess the whole big distraction was COVID, because that was the big distraction, right? Their lives were restricted because of that, not because of Ashton.
Yeah.
And they didn't actually get to meet him for 9 months.
Wow.
Because he wasn't allowed out the hospital and they were allowed in the hospital. So I think it was about 9 or 10 months before we actually got to bring him to the door outside with all these ventilators and stuff like that. And that's when they first. So there wasn't really a lot of burden on the kids in the early stage, other than the fact that we had to keep going to the hospital.
Yeah.
But then it was stuck in the house anyway because it was lockdown. So it was just a strange period. There was too much things to deal with. And I don't think they felt the burden of just Ashton, because there was so much going on at the time. Well, so much of nothing going on at the time.
Yeah.
And when he came home, I think it was just a joy and excitement for them just to be able to care for him. So it was kind of a bit of a flip, where they just wanted to. My Elena, the youngest one, she knows how to do pretty much all of his medical stuff. The older ones, that if we need help, they'll help. Because I've got a stepdaughter as well as my eldest daughter, so they help when they naturally, and if you ask them to. But I don't feel there's any. I think they've been quite fortunate not to have experienced a lot of restrictions down to Ashton.
Yeah.
I think when everything came into play, it's been able to be there. It's probably more of his mum that's sat holding him while I'm doing stuff with the kids, but she's present. You know what I mean? Or we'll swap or whatever. So I guess I could say no. I don't think there's been any restriction to them or burden on them, which means I have no guilt. Like, it's yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I do have guilt, especially for the older two, because life changed a lot for them. They're like 7. My 7-year-old, my eldest daughter now, she was a gymnast at the time,
Yeah.
and she just got into one of the best clubs in London called Europa.
Okay.
But that's in where is it now? It's far, basically. It's like an hour and a half journey from where we were.
Oh wow.
Got in. I took her to the trials and they assessed her. I said, okay, yeah, we'll give her a try. But that's like 4 times a week, training, hour and a half away, and just couldn't do it because I had her and her brother at home, the baby and mum at the hospital for 13 weeks. I had to, and then school was going on. I had to parent them, support her, find out what's going on with the baby.
The cooking,
The cooking,
cleaning
the
as well.
cleaning, blah blah blah. So basically, her gymnastics career just ended there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything, not everything, but a lot of things. No, a lot of logistics is based around Taya. Holidays, extra care's got to be taken. We've got to make sure we have this kind of seat, this kind of room in the hotel, this kind of provision.
Yeah.
And obviously their mum has to spend more time with her,
Yes.
so they get less mummy time over the years. And they've made comments every now and then, "Oh, she's always with the babies." So the older two call the younger two the babies, and we call them the bigs. So the bigs will say, "Oh, mum's always with the babies," and they don't get that one-to-one time. So I do feel guilty. Again, like you said, there's not much I could have done. I couldn't spread myself any thinner or split myself in half to take her gymnastics and then everything else. But I'm super proud of them though, the way how they care for her, look after her.
Yeah.
They've just stepped up to the plate. Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
Very proud of them. They look after her really well. They play with her. They understand her. They tease her. They help her. And yeah, they don't treat her any different. Like she annoys them like a little sister, but they don't treat her any way where I'd have to pull them up like, don't talk to her like that or don't handle her like that. So yeah, there is guilt there. I don't know how to deal with it. I know there's nothing I can do to change the time they've lost. But then also I feel like they're growing up so quickly, like I'm running out of time of their childhood.
Yeah.
So I feel, run out of time. I've still got so much stuff I'm dealing with. How can I make the rest of their childhood or their life better as soon as possible? But it's like they're going so much faster than I'm able to
catch up with
progress.
them.
And
But I think as parents, we, in general,
yeah.
what we worry about, the kids are not worried about.
Not
The
at all.
children are the most resilient people, and within a few days they will forget things.
Yeah.
And I think I think sometimes there is a certain. I think a special child is sometimes put into our lives because we need to stop. Even as individuals, I wouldn't say that's a why, but I would say that it allows us to be able to kind of pause and stop and notice things that we hadn't noticed. Ryan, you know me for a long time. I'm very sharp. My mouth is quick when I'm ready, and I think that it has allowed me to have more patience and more empathy with people as well. So and I'm a single parent now. So even coming here today, my mum's had to come and stay with Lay so that because I was doing other things with my other daughter, and it is, you just make it work.
True.
So a question for everyone. This is something that's always on my mind as dad. I think about things like if there was an emergency,
Right.
how are you going to save everyone?
Okay.
Your child with special needs, for example, or ours, would need the most help in an emergency. Your son too would maybe, you might have to give him instruction, or you might have to, something might not come to him that might be obvious. So I'm always playing scenarios in my mind about what would I do in this situation? What would I do in that situation? How would I save Taya and the rest of them? Do you know what I mean? So that's the first question to everybody. Do you think about those scenarios? But also the future. Have you planned or put any plans in place for after we're gone? Who looks after our special child? Who's got power of attorney? Who takes responsibility? And does that scare you? Obviously, I'm sure it does. Do you know what I mean? That's hella scary for me because right now, as I'm fit and healthy, I think, yeah, I've got a. Do you know what I mean? But realistically, we're in our. Oh, sorry, I'm in my 30s still.
Yeah, but you
Just
still got nappies. You still got his nappies on.
Just
but if we average our ages out, we're early 40s. Yeah. So it's the time of our life where we have to think about wills and power of attorneys and who's going to do what. So, yeah. The future, have you planned for that?
I'm still part of the denial
Okay.
in regards to that bit.
Okay. You know if you're going to die?
Thank you. Imagine.
You surely will, my bro.
And absolutely, I know that it's just a timing thing. TikTok. But again, that's part of the denial. Is I want to be there. I want to be there. I want to be the one to do that. I want to be the one to continue. But it is something that, again, part of the relying and leaning on his mum is I'm thinking, okay, if I go, mum's there and she's the best person doing the best thing for him.
Yeah.
So I'm okay. So that's my safety net.
What
But
happens
it's
when
not
mum
a
goes?
financial. If mum goes, then I'm there.
No. If you go,
Yeah.
and then at some point mum's
Mum
gonna
goes.
go,
Then again, there's a part where, because I've got a large family,
yeah,
I'm assuming that my family would take. I'm one of 9.
okay,
Mum is one of 1. So more than likely, if it was the case, then one
your
of my
family.
siblings will pick up the parenting role. But no, it's something that maybe I need to think hard about. I was on. I mean, we spoke about the other day. I was on life insurance, but run out. I never renewed that, and I never renewed it. And so that's something that I'm thinking heavily about, and at least to have those heavy discussions.
Okay,
Yeah.
Connie.
So I've never thought about how I'm going to save them all.
Maybe that's a man thing, though.
Oh
Maybe
yeah,
it's a man
probably.
protective thing.
Yeah, I'm just like run, everybody run.
Everyone for themselves.
And I think, definitely in terms of that. So I've got a touch of the denial in the sense that my plan in my mind, she will be able to be independent enough to at least care for herself to a point.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. And then obviously her siblings are there and that. But yes, it's something that I'm in my mind. I need to make enough money so that I can
leave them something.
And also pay a carer and somebody that's going to come in and live with us. I'm even trying to do that now. And so, that's kind of where I am with it, but I haven't thought so far about the death thing. Please, Lord, not yet. But yeah, it is very scary thinking about their future. That's what I think that is a really, really scary thing.
Aaron?
Yeah, man, I'm Superman, bro. Like, I can fly. I'm Batman at the same time. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna die. No, like yeah. The reality kicks in when you start seeing people drop down constantly around you, and it's scary, man, because you say I'm gonna be there to support them, but sometimes you don't even check out your own health. I have been religiously getting blood tests every 6 months. I get checked out.
Wow.
There's a lot of people in my family who suffered from cancer. Some have made it, some didn't. I just get checked out. I get checked out.
Yeah.
Do I eat the best way? No. But you try and moderately look after yourself. Do I sleep enough? No. Do I overwork? Yes. Am I risking my life driving when I'm tired? Yes. I'm doing all the things which I'm doing some things right and then doing half the things wrong, but you still got to support and provide. So in the current state, and it was only obviously since we've been separate. I had life insurance, but since we've been separated, this year I kind of looked at everything. And earlier this year, I got a new life insurance policy.
Okay.
And I spoke to, I just bumped it up to £500,000. Like, what can I afford?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I put it in.
You put
in
it
my
in
ex. It's in my. I've spread it where I've set it so that there's a division between the kids, and my ex-wife will get her name's on it. to get a lump of it.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, there's two kids there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All I'm bothered about is that they have a home, they have a future, they have, they have something there. Because there's no way I can work enough to save money, like enough to be able to cover that.
Yeah.
No.
So I just thought, you know what, it's a worthwhile investment of just going and out and doing that.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure it's there. That's the best I can do. So if I drop down tomorrow, at least then I know that they ain't gonna be in a hole. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're gonna be fine.
Mm.
Mm.
So it's definitely something that talk to my friends about. We actually all sat and spoke with me and my friends and like, guys, like, I know we've done our wills, but we all should know what each of us have because like some of my friends were like brothers were like, I need to know what you got so that because I'm godparents to I've got 6 goddaughters. There's a lot of responsibilities in different ways that people have probably relied on me for, but in the same way. So I think people close to you should know things about what you. There's going to be so much things you don't think about that people
Yeah.
should know about. Otherwise, the government would just take everything.
Yep. Yep.
Where
Yep.
it
Yeah.
should be with your kids, it should be spread out even. There should be no political things about who gets what.
Yeah.
Just put that in place from now,
Mm.
and then at least then everybody is sorted out.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can go in peace of mind and knowing that at least you've covered an important thing.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, I wanted to touch on our experiences with education, so the education system. So I know
Okay.
Aaron earlier on, you said that your son isn't in a special needs school,
Yeah,
and one of your son, your daughter is. My daughter is. Is your son?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just quickly, like, how's that experience been getting them there, and are you happy with their school life?
Mm.
I can go first because he's not there yet. But my son didn't get to go to private nursery um, before going to like reception, like school nursery.
Mm-hmm.
So his social skills of dealing with kids around him was non-existent, other than his siblings, and then also dealing with other people caring for him.
Mm.
So that was kind of a big worry. How
Mm.
would he be? He can't respond. He can't talk. He can't walk. He can't. All of these things. Um, he's done really well. They managed. The school has done. I'm happy with the school. The school worked really hard on making sure he's got facilities and he has like a kind of it's what I wouldn't say one to one anymore,
Mm.
but he has like somebody that there's probably look after 2 or 3 kids directly just and he's doing well with that.
Wicked.
He's yeah, it's made a difference to him.
Yeah.
So I think I wouldn't say it's down to the system. I would say it's down to that school
Mm.
in particular, and they've tried the hardest, even though we've been applying, trying to get into special needs schools. There's just none in that area that he could go to because they're all full. Now we couldn't take him to a different one, and it logistically wouldn't work for my other daughter who's in the school near the house. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just doesn't work. You can't have them in 2 different schools. It just logistically doesn't work. So
Mm.
yeah, it's challenging because I don't know what the next steps are. Really, we're just kind of going with the flow.
Mm. Is there a school bus option for you? So you could take one daughter to school and let your son go in the school bus?
No, there's no school bus.
Okay.
Uh,
It's tough, man.
yeah,
So, on his EHCP plan, have they allocated it? Have they said that his needs are to have a special school,
yeah.
but they're saying to you that there's no space?
There's no space. The
Yeah.
waiting list is too long. So
Okay.
they're now going to keep him behind another year in
Yeah.
his reception.
Virtual school hasn't been included.
Oh,
Is it?
virtual.
Is virtual schools?
The virtual school deal with everything.
Okay.
No, never heard of that.
Mm.
Mm.
Well, for me, I'll say he doesn't go to school bus. He goes by taxi.
Okay.
So that kind of
Alleviates the,
yeah.
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 Were you against the school bus?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'll say at first yes,
Okay.
because
Stop telling lie. No.
I'll be the taxi driver. I'm the
Yeah.
one taking it. Um, but yeah, the taxi was great, and there's two kids in the taxi, and he gets on well with the kid. The kid in the taxi is also part of the class, so
Okay.
familiarity
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
comfort. Again, similar to Aaron, I'll say the government and the system, no, they're not helpful.
Mm.
There's certain things that we're trying to change in schools, but they're not really helping with that. So
Mm.
again, making complaints with different departments.
Yeah.
But the school itself, you find individuals who, I don't know, just angels, and they're there to give you favor, and they're really supporting my son. So
Yeah.
yeah, and he's developing well.
Good.
So the school, yes, fantastic. I'm happy with them. System, no.
Taxi. Yes.
Taxi, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a time actually, a new taxi driver decided that he didn't have a car seat, and he wanted to drive my son. It's a good 25 minute, and my son was about 4 at the time.
Mm.
Yeah, 4. So mom went downstairs, left them, and mom was a bit like disgruntled, like,
Mm.
why don't you have a car seat? Oh, no, it's okay, you'll sit there. It's a new service.
Mm.
I went downstairs. I'm bringing the car seat down,
Yeah.
my car seat. So you take him to school, bring him back. When you're bringing him back, I'll take the car seat back. Yeah.
Mm.
Taxi driver wasn't there when I came downstairs.
We
Oh wow.
drove off.
Wow.
Oh, bro.
So Incredible Hulk.
You can imagine.
Hey.
Incredible.
Yeah.
When they say
The other guy, that's what I usually call him. The other guy came out, right?
the old guy, yeah, one gorilla, 100 men. I told him that if he's not back, and he was gone for about almost 10 minutes. I told him if he's not back in 3 minutes, I will come and search for him.
Yeah.
And it was a problem. When I said the guy came back, but he tried to say, but we have to pick up the other kid.
What's that got to do? Yeah. The child has to be safe.
You
My child
come
has to be
back
safe.
now.
Yeah.
He came back, and then I took my child from him.
Yeah.
I said, I'm taking my child to school. You're never going to take my child ever. They changed the service.
That shows you that his attitude alone shows you that's not who you want your child to be in their care.
No,
Do you know
I'm
what
not going to second chance. Are you mad?
Crazy.
No, my child. Yeah.
Crazy. Cons?
So as I said, I've taken the local authority to tribunal twice. That was because with Alea, when she didn't have a diagnosis, all they knew is that she had symptoms of cerebral palsy or muscle tone, and the thing for that, from an educational point of view, is conductive education.
Okay.
And so I found a conductive education school that was private,
Yeah.
that she could go to from when she was younger.
Yeah.
And obviously, local authority, no, we're not paying for that, blah, 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 blah. So I took them to tribunal.
Also, you got him to pay for it.
I got them to pay for it twice, because then they tried to end it, and I was like, well, where are you going to send her to? What does that school do?
Yeah.
But I'm saying all of that, I had to pay for my own speech and language therapist, and luckily I knew somebody that did that, so they didn't charge me. I had to pay for my own educational psychologist. I had to pay for my own physio to do reports for the tribunal.
Yeah.
And so it's not, it's not like anybody just pick up and do something.
No.
There's a whole thing. They will try and you out. So now, then when they had to move school, she went to a school that was probably about 10 minutes away from me. And then obviously as she's gone older, she's in secondary now. The only secondary school they have is I live in Watford, and the school that they have is in Stevenage. So that's kind of like going from one side of London to the other, really.
Jeez.
It's about the least it will be is about 45 minutes to drive there.
Yeah.
So she does that journey. They pick her up at 7:30 a.m.
Mhm.
She goes to school and she doesn't come back till 5 o'clock. I asked them, has she got a job? Have you given her a paycheck? Because how could she leave her house at 7:30 and not come home till 5?
That's a long day. Yeah.
It's a long day. She doesn't get to go to after school clubs anymore. She doesn't get that kind of extracurricular stuff. So it's a bugbear for me. And I'm trying to speak to them about when she went to that school, they tried to tell me that they had an overnight thing that they could, so once a week she could stay.
Okay.
As soon as I agreed, because I said to them, she's not going there, it's too far. When they told me that to pacify me, I said, okay, I'll let her start. As soon as she started, they shut down the facility where she could stay overnight. So she's been there 2 years and it never happened. And I've gone back and I've said it to them, they just don't. I think part of it is they don't have resources, but also part of it is that I think a lot of parents of children with special needs are so up to here with everything that they don't complain necessarily,
they don't wanna
and
take
they
on the fight.
don't take on the fight. But I will fight you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we don't want that smoke.
So that's what I would say. The school itself, nothing wrong with it. She doesn't swim as much as she used to. There are some things that you can't obviously choose with what it is they're doing.
Yeah.
She hates going on the bus. She hates that particular bus as well. I've tried to change it a number of times, but again, I find with the local authority that unless you complain, they
don't do
do not
nothing
listen.
about it.
Yeah.
They don't listen.
Wow. All right, we're gonna have to wrap up, guys. It's been amazing having you guys here. Thank you. Appreciate you, Aaron.
Yeah, no problem.
Connie, thank you, Chris.
Thank
I think we need to have another session because there's loads of other things we could talk about. I'm sure this resonates with people out there that are watching. I'd love for us to come back and give people maybe some insight, some encouragement, some advice, what they could do, what's helped us, that kind of thing. So we're going to have a part 2 for sure.
Maybe something about the whole relationship thing as well, because I think that's a big conversation.
Yeah. Again, we've got similarities that we've all been married, all been divorced, all got children with additional needs, etc. So
it's mash up.
AKA mash up. Nah, but we've all come out the other end better. So thanks for joining us, guys. Send us questions, comment, share it with other people, subscribe, like, all that kind of good stuff. And
jazz.
we will be back with another episode very soon. Take care. Peace.